Welcome to this episode of Wisdom Keepers of Earth. I have a very, very unique and special guest. I'm so excited to introduce him. Chris Anatra is a wonderful man who I've met through a series of videos on IMEC, International Mandela Effects Open Tables. And I want to give you a little bit of background on him before we dive in here. Chris is the CEO of a company, a computer software company specializing in food distribution. And he began his journey into what our reality is when in 2016, Mandela effects such as HAAS, HAAS Avocados, changing to HAAS Avocados, began to become more and more obvious. In his life. This led to his investigation into the Mandela effect, our holographic reality, and his spiritual awakening into the Akashic records, timelines, and the consciousness itself. Boy, welcome, Chris. So wonderful to have you here. That is a lot to get through.
Yeah, I could have added a little bit more to it, but yeah, that's good. That's enough.
Yeah. So before we get started, the Mandela effect that you began to notice, and for those in the audience that don't know what the Mandela effect is, could you give us a quick description of that?
Yeah, so the Mandela effect, well, the name was named after Nelson Mandela because a lot of people like myself had this memory that he had died in prison in the late 80s. And then come to find out, he never did die in prison. He actually became president of South Africa, and he lived until at least 2010. So a lot of people like myself have specific memories. Remember like riots in the streets, remember his funeral, where his wife gave the funeral speech. She became elected president of South Africa in the 90s, like a whole different history of what happened. And then boom, all of a sudden, like that's not the way history was at all. So it's having a memory of something very specific that is not actually the way it is in the historical record. And the Mandela effect doesn't just affect history. It affects the geography of the planet. It affects art. It affects pop culture and movies, songs. It affects all of these different areas of life that show that there's something going on out there. Like things are not as we would think they are.
Yes. So that must have been a very big shock when you started to see the grocery list, I would call it, for your company. The names just changed. HAAS.
Wow. That was very interesting because when I would go out and give like product demonstrations for our software, there was always one item on like a sample invoice or purchase order. It was always HAAS Avocados. So I would always see HAAS all the time, besides knowing it was HAAS Avocados. And then when that changed to HAAS Avocados, even the person that discovered them or was part of bringing them to the market, his name was Rudolf Haas in the old timeline. Now his name has always been Rudolf Haas. Oh. And that began to confuse some of my customers too, because they were blaming it on the software. They're saying your software's got a bug. It changed all of our HAAS avocados to Haas. And I would be like, software wouldn't do that. Like that doesn't make any sense. But that was just one in a string of many different things that started to like, what is this Mandela effect? Because when you do a search for it online, Mandela effect would come up all the time. And then that began my journey into the Mandela effect and really how important it is for expanding our consciousness is what I believe.
Wow. Yes. So that particular, those events took you in that direction of consciousness. I want to ask you, going back a little bit, when you were younger, did you have any, did you have more intuition? Were you in touch with your intuition as a young person? Did you feel that there was a connection there somehow?
That's a good question because younger, up till about the age when I was 30, I was brought up in a religion called Jehovah's Witnesses. And it's kind of like, if you have anything like that, it shuts it right down. You have to like be obedient to a certain point, and there are 5 meetings a week you have to go to, and you have to knock on people's doors, and you do this and you do that. It's very authoritarian. And it wasn't finally till I was excommunicated in my 30s from that group where things started to open up, and I began to like listen to myself and my own inner voice that I never had allowed to happen before.
Oh, yes. Wonderful. Sometimes it takes that. I wonder why you had such structure in the beginning, but that's another, that's another
Yes.
topic.
Yeah, it's another topic. And I think I know the reason why, but that could be another interview.
Yeah. So moving on into this Mandela effect that spurred you on, it brought up lots of creativity for you and this connection, and you after being excommunicated and moving forward and seeing these differences. So tell me, all of a sudden, why did you decide to go down this idea of expanded consciousness? I know you do these wonderful YouTube videos, Symphony of Realities, and you go on to these marvelous locations. How did all this go? Tell me more about this.
Yeah. So really what happened was there was the Mandela effect on one side that was beginning to wake me up to like, how could this be? Like, what is reality all about? And then I started having some other, I'll call them spiritual experiences that I couldn't explain. And one, I'll just tell you the real quick version of it, but I was, this was probably the year 2016. I was in my bedroom, and in front of me appeared 2 like lion people. And I'm like, what? I'm like, I thought someone put like a holographic projector in my bedroom and was playing a trick on me. And I'm like, what is this? And it was a male and a female. I got the impression they were married. The male was wearing like a blue military uniform and he had a medal on. And the female was like a lioness and she had a ruby on her head and a blue dress. And I'm like, just standing there looking at it. I'm like, what the heck is this? And, I wasn't under the influence of drugs. I was feeling totally normal. And then finally they just kind of faded away. So then I started asking a lot of questions, like if people would have ever seen anything like that, tried to find information online. Sometimes I would close my eyes and I would see these 10-second high definition, like movie clips, no sound, just like movie clips that like, what is this? So I was having those types of experiences, and that led me into the Akashic Records. Because somebody finally, most of my friends were saying, you need to go to the doctor, like go to the doctor now. But I'm like, but I feel totally fine. I just see things in my head. But then one of my friends said, oh, it looks like you're getting access to the Akashic Records. And at that time, I never heard of the Akashic Records. I had no idea. I was like, Akashic, what's the Akashic Records? And then that led me into another journey. So Mandela Effects, visions, Akashic Records, getting access to past lives or whatever I was seeing. It was like, I felt I was going through this big transformation.
Wow.
I know, it's out there. I know.
How did you keep it together?
Yeah, throughout the whole time, I felt totally like, I'm like, I feel normal. So it wasn't like I was conflicted. I was just trying to understand it. And then people that I would be with, like at that time, a girlfriend that I was with at that time, she was just not having any of it. It was like, I would talk to her about Mandela effects, and she was like, please stop talking to me about this. And I'm like, why? This is so important. And she's like, I like my reality just the way it is. Don't change it. And I'm like, well, I don't like the reality just the way it is. I want to learn more. So yeah, so sometimes there would be people in my life that would try to shut things down and just like, get back to work, move on, nothing to see here, people. But then I wanted to keep pursuing it. And then it led to so many things me being part of the IMEC, the International Mandela Effect Conference, where we had our first conference in Ketchum, Idaho, which was amazing. I created my own YouTube channel. I have these videos I put out called Symphony of Realities to help explain, what is consciousness and the Akashic records and so forth. So I'm having fun with all this. It's great. It's a great experience.
Oh my goodness. One of the things that I recognized in watching your Symphony of Realities is the archaeological aspects of it and the earth energies that are the imprints that are there from certain places that you visit. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, one of the things that I like to do is, especially around the time of my birthday, is to find some place on the planet where I feel that my higher self or my divine self would like me to go visit for whatever reason. So what I've done is, well, in one of my experiences, I try to imagine like a world map in my imagination and then zero in on where I should go. And one year it was to Sri Lanka. I'm like, Sri Lanka, like that's far away. We sure we have to go to Sri Lanka? So wound up going to Sri Lanka with one of my friends. His name is Sean Bond. We went there together, and I was directed to go to this place that was an ancient Stargate. And I had a very interesting experience there. I actually literally passed out. I fell down, I cut my head. And then I feel that I traveled. It only happened like 30 seconds, but I feel that a part of me went on and had all these other experiences, came back into my body. And I think I'm still integrating that trip, to be honest with you. And then the other year, similar type of a thing, I was directed to go to Kansas, of all places. And again, there was a type of portal there called Monument Rocks that I wound up going to. So I find that because some people say you don't really have to travel, and that's true. You don't have to travel to different locations. But the way I feel, the way I read into it is that all these different locations you can go to, like Egypt or Sri Lanka or Kansas or wherever it is, those parts of the world actually vibrate at a different frequency. And if you've had past lives there, or if you've had any kind of interactions, that frequency, because everything is energy, frequency, and vibration, can actually affect your DNA. So I tell people if they have the opportunity to go someplace and they feel pulled to go, if possible, they should definitely do that. And that's why I even think people that are you meet someone that's well-traveled, that's been all over the world, they just have a different feel about them. Like they're more seasoned, so to speak, just because their DNA has picked up all these other frequencies. So yeah, I find that's important too, is going to different places. And then there's the whole concept that when you go there too, your higher self is doing grid working. So, whether it was me going to Rome one year, and that I did that as well. There's all these different things that I think were important that, when you go to these locations, you're doing more than just visiting them. There's more that's going on behind the scenes. And if you go to the right spots, it even amplifies what you're doing there.
And did you find that while you were there, it wasn't just affecting you, but there was sort of an integration with you in the place? It wasn't just about you shifting, but it was about you maybe adding something or participating in something that was happening there. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. That makes sense. Yeah. Because some of those trips, I got a clear picture and understanding. Sometimes when I returned home, I'm like, is that what I did there? So you get like a download of a type of information that kind of flows into you like a river of truth. And it's like, wow, did that really happen? So yeah. So I believe that is also very true.
So your main focus these days is what? Because there's so many avenues here. What is your real main focus these days?
The biggest thing that I'm starting to do that I was a little bit embarrassed of at first, but I'm starting to come out of the light language closet, so to speak. But I had an activation at the end of 2018 to start speaking this very special type of ancient light language. And so what I did is I began to share that. I made a couple of videos about it. In one of the videos, I created what's called a soul family homing beacon, which was a special type of activation where your higher self could create a homing beacon that would be camouflaged, but only for your soul family to see, so that other members of your soul family, no matter where they were in the world, their higher selves could start chest moving so you guys can actually meet. And I've gotten all kinds of like great testimonials from people saying, all these really interesting experiences about people that they've met after they did it. So that was one thing that I did. And I did another one for just recently for a heart expansion light language to expand your heart and heal heart wounds and help clear heart walls. Because basically the heart is the most important part. Like all the energy flows out. And, when your heart is in alignment, you become more psychic, you become more loving, your gifts start to flow in. So I created that video was just put out, and it's a different kind of, it's the same light language that I speak called Hibaru. It's the same style of language, but it's a team effort, because what's actually happening is there's the concept of forming a collective, which is basically like a mastermind group. So everyone that participates in it learns from everyone else about how their higher self may have learned how to clear heart walls, or learned how to get pieces of their heart back. Because, like if you're in love with someone or something happens and it's like, that person took a piece of my heart, because maybe they literally did take a piece of your heart. So like all that type of, I'll call it technology, to make your heart whole again. So we're all learning from each other. So yeah, these are the types of things that I do, and I'm feeling that it's starting to have an effect. So not many people have heard about me, but more and more are beginning to like see and just feel it in your soul. Because I tell people, when you listen with your heart, not with your mind, because your heart is like getting it all, and your heart is understanding, and your heart has a brain. You've got like 40,000 neurons in your heart. So yeah.
Start listening with the heart. Absolutely.
Exactly.
That collective sounds really interesting. If you could tap into all these different ways of self-healing, or helping someone to self-heal by listening to this language of light, that would be awesome. Wonderful.
Yeah, it all happens behind the scenes, in the unseen, so to speak. Yeah.
And are you still pursuing all of the Mandela Effect as well? This is a side. You're still into the Mandela Effect seeking?
Yeah, I'll tell you, like literally every day, new Mandela effects are popping up for me. And like what I feel is that nothing is random. So some people will be like, oh, that's a weird Mandela effect. And then I'm like, yeah, that is weird, but what's the hidden meaning to that? And just last night, there's a Mandela effect that all of a sudden was actually from a song. And all of a sudden, that Mandela effect, I started getting a download about what that actually meant. So, yeah. So I like taking things to the next level. So Mandela effects, a lot of people get a dopamine rush when they hear about like, the lyrics to a Michael Jackson song just changed. Or give me another Mandela effect. Give me another. Like, so a lot of people start to get addicted to it. But I like taking them individually and then seeing like, is someone somewhere trying to give us a clue or something about our reality, or something that's happened or something that is happening through the Mandela effect. So that's the latest thing that I enjoy doing with Mandela.
Do you want to share that song with us?
Yeah. So I'd love to. So the song is called California Dreaming, by the Mamas and the Papas. Now, first of all, any song that has the word dreaming in it kind of has my attention, because I feel that we're dreaming right now. Like in a way, I'm dreaming you and you're dreaming me, and the future audience is dreaming both of us together. So California Dreaming came out in 1965, which is actually the same year I was born, by the Mamas and the Papas. So a lot of people know the lyrics to it, and there was a change to the lyrics. So what I want to do, let's do this experiment. And if you don't remember, that's fine. But I'm going to sing part of the song, and then I want you to finish the verse if you remember.
Okay.
Okay. So I got to clear my throat. Part of the song goes, stopped into a church, I passed along the way. Well, I got down on my knees.
And I began to pray.
Yeah. And
I began to pray.
Perfect. I'm glad you said that. Because in this timeline, it's never been began to pray. It's always been pretend to pray.
No. Oh,
anyone watching, go to lyrics.com, do your own research, but it's never been begin to pray. Now, I remember begin to pray. Like, I've been singing those lyrics for a long time.
Me too.
Yeah. So now it's pretend to pray. So last night I was thinking about that, and I'm like, I know there's a hidden meaning here somewhere. So one of the things about our language is that words can have, the same word could have a different meaning. So if I say the word no, you might think of N-O, or you might think of K-N-O-W, like knowledge. But it's the same, when you speak it, it's the same frequency. The spelling's different. So pretend to pray. Pray is one of those words, because a lot of people, when they hear pray, it could be like, they're praying to their God or whatever. Or there's the hunted, which is prey. Like a predator will look for its prey. So I feel that this particular Mandela effect has to do with this person coming in from the cold. He goes into a church, and instead of beginning to pray, like he's actually going to do the act of prayer, he's pretending to pray. So by pretending, if you're pretending to pray, you kind of know what's going on. There's a predator someplace. There's something that wants whatever it is that they can steal from you. So for myself, I believe that this Mandela effect is showing a change where we can actually, like, humanity is advancing, and we're getting to the point where we could actually do something more and actually no longer become the hunted, but to hunt the predator, like make the predator not take advantage of us anymore. And then, like, I was reading further into it, I'll just tell you a little bit more too, is I believe there's roots to this with Atlantis, and something called the golden age of Atlantis. California, the word California, well, if you go to California, if you look at a license plate, I think it says the Golden State. So the Golden State, the Golden Age, LA, I wish I was in LA, could mean the time of what's called learned Atlantis, when all the kingdoms of Atlantis were in unity. There was peace, everyone's cooperating, grand knowledge everywhere. So the person singing that song could have been missing the good old days in Atlantis. And now they're here on this version of Earth, which is kind of brown and dark and gray. And yeah, so like you can go level into level into level, but that's what I love doing, like trying to break something down and seeing if there's more than what's on the surface, especially when it comes to Mandela effects. So there you go.
Wow. That is a very rich, in-depth look at a song that's been Mandela affected.
Yeah.
So what that, of course, what that does is that brings you to like, well, the Monopoly game, the Monopoly man has changed. So what's the hidden meaning there, or the Mr. Peanut, where's the monocle,
Yeah.
So all these hidden meanings, I mean, they seem funny.
Yeah. What do you think that one is?
Seeing or not seeing, perhaps.
I would agree with that.
I just think it's really interesting.
Yeah, because everybody remembers the Monopoly man wearing a monocle, and no one ever knew what his name is, but his name is Rich Uncle Pennybags.
Oh yeah, I remember that name.
Okay, well, I don't remember he had a name, but I remember he always had a monocle.
Yeah, he always had a monocle. Now he doesn't.
Yeah, even parodies, movies. There's a monocle.
There is a lot going, and my reference to Mr. Peanut, I think he had a cane. I'm trying to remember what the difference was with the Mr. Peanut man.
Yeah. And so, and so some people that try to explain away the Mandela effect is like, oh, you just have bad memory. You're thinking of Mr. Peanut. A lot of people are like, who's Mr. Peanut? So a lot of times the way they try to explain something is like, well, I don't even know who that guy is. But yeah, the Mr. Peanut brand, in some parts of the world, that brand doesn't exist. So, but Monopoly does.
Yes.
So it's a way to try to explain things that, the thing is, do people trust your own memory?
So continuing down this idea of expanded consciousness, what do you feel are your greatest influences? Who do you look to, or do you just go internally and up, or is there anyone you've looked outside to and said, wow, they've gotten somewhere, I'd like to see what they're up to?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say there's anyone in particular. I feel that like a lot of people have their own wisdom to add to what's going on. And so sometimes I'll feel attracted to listening to someone, or just I'll discover someone and I'll listen to them and I'll pick out like gold nuggets from what they have to say. But there isn't really, I can't really name like one person in particular, but it does span the line of everyone that's involved in the sciences. Because the other part too is, me being in the software business has been to try to understand, what does science say about the concept of a holographic universe, the concept of timelines, the concept of many worlds or different universes. Does quantum mechanics fit in with that? What does the double slit experiment say? How the observer changes the observed? Is that a clue to how lucid dreaming can work? And like I said, are we actually lucid dreaming right now? Are we actually having a dream? So both on the scientific side, and then those, that are more inclined to talk about galactic history, spirituality, like those types of things as well. So it's really just a combination of things. And it usually turns out I don't spend too much time on any one particular person or teaching, because I'm finding more and more that things, as they flow into me, I'm getting like my own type of information. So all these other things that I've learned have helped to create a foundation. And then now, like, the structure that I'm building is kind of more of my own, and reading into things, in a certain style that I have. And then I have friends that will also do things like they're into the Akashic records and reading that. So sometimes I'll get these downloads of information and I'll run it by them. And a lot of times they'll agree, or it's like something has to be adjusted, but it's all part of like the whole learning experience.
And so what helps you feel inspired to continue? What gives you,
what?
I want to keep going. I want to keep looking.
Yeah, because it's almost like it's like an inside feeling. Part of it is like a hobby. How you start doing something that you really love to do. That's part of it. The other part of it is that also desire to serve and to help other people begin to understand. Because if I could help people understand more about Mandela effects and why are there Mandela effects? Is time travel involved? Something was a concept of timeline insertions and hairballs of timelines and all these other things. So I'm hoping that I can help people to make sense of everything that's going on, because it just gives you like as you're able to expand your consciousness, all these things start to make more sense. Like everything that you may have questioned about, is there life after death? Is reincarnation real? Like all those type of things, like they all start falling into place, like in perfect place. So it's like finding the right puzzle piece, and the piece that just fits perfectly. So yeah, so I love doing it. I love helping other people learn. I've got my other full-time job with, making sure the HAAS avocados get delivered on time. So I've got all these different things going on. So, but it's all, I really enjoy doing it.
So, well, thank you for all your sharing. So getting back to this idea of timelines and Mandela effect, do you feel that, I mean, to put this in a linear way, because that's all we have at the moment, right? In our speaking language is linear. Do you feel like you jump timelines? Can you at will or begin to shift your own timeline for yourself? If something you feel isn't quite right, do you say, click, switch, let's move in another direction? Or
Yeah, it's not quite that easy for me, but I do feel that like all of these timelines are related to frequencies. So when your own thinking becomes negative in any kind of way, you almost could like start dropping in timelines. When you're keeping yourself, your vibrations up and so forth, you're like going into better timelines. And I'm working on that concept because it could even come in play to even business ideas. But, is there, like, should I make a decision to do, X, Y, and Z? Will that lead to a good timeline? So those types of things are important because then you can start to move into action, the things that will like put you into that timeline. So, but timelines are part of the whole, like you can look at it in different ways. Like there's a concept of bubbles of reality, and we're all our own universe, and we're all in our own bubble, and we're just interacting with each other. And then there's the concept of timelines. So I believe that all of a sudden, like when you start seeing Mandela effects, for example, you're jumping timelines because now you're moving into a timeline where something that was before is no longer that way anymore, and now you're in a higher frequency timeline. Or a different timeline altogether. So I feel that it's all related to that, and it's happening to more and more people. Concepts like time, like Mandela effects. Looking at a clock, seeing angel numbers, like all these things are all signs that we're advancing in the right direction.
how do you personally keep your vibration up? Do you have a thing you can share? What do you do to keep yourself high vibe?
There's a couple things that I can mention. One I call is the 5-second rule, which means that as soon as you start thinking about something negative, past interaction you've had with something that somebody didn't go well, you have any kind of negative thoughts, something on the news, whatever it is, be aware of it, and then don't think about it more than 5 seconds. Just cancel, clear, delete. Like just move on to like train your mind to move on to something, to be observant of those things, because when you start putting yourself into that vibration, it starts to like a little bit to bring you down. And the more you like dwell on it, the more it starts to bring you down. So 5-second rule for that.
5-second rule,
cancel.
Another thing. 5-second rule, cancel, clear, delete.
Clear and delete.
Okay.
Yeah, even if you say something bad about someone, like, oh, no, wrong, cancel, clear, delete. Didn't mean to say that. Take that out of the quantum field. That I do not want to put anything like that out there.
Yes.
And then the more you do it, you just become more observant of it. You become more observant of your thinking patterns, because that's really, especially now, like all the light coming onto the planet with the sun and the Schumann resonance and all these things that are like really like vibrate, like we're being forced to, we may not like it or not. No, we do like it, but it's like forcing us to like vibrate into higher frequencies. But then some people can't take it. It's almost like their bodies they're like misfiring. Like it's too much. It's too much light for them. Yeah. So, but yeah, we can stay on the right path as long as we can just keep ourselves in a good mindset and not let things bother us that's going on.
So I interrupted you. You had a second. You had a second technique that I interrupted. I'm sorry, but I wanted to catch that. Cancel, clear, delete, and the next.
Yeah, this other thing is going to seem kind of, well, for some people they're going to say, of course, but we're frequency. Everything is energy, frequency, and vibration. That's what Tesla said. So most people agree with it. That's an accurate statement. So if that's true, then the frequency of what you put into your body, what you consume through your eyes and so forth, will have an effect on you. So specifically when it comes to food, I've been finding for myself, if I can keep a certain type of diet that is more of high frequency food, so to speak, it helps me keep the higher frequency as well. So, and I don't like to give diet advice because people are very like, the diets are like very important to people, like whatever. But I found for myself more of a vegetarian diet with including dairy and eggs, that type of thing, works well for me. And so some people might try that. And even in like, I mean, there's something called water fasting. Even in the Bible, like Jesus did the fast for 40 days and 40 nights, that will like immediately like raise your frequency. But I'm not advising that at all. But basically, like, because your frequency, you are what you eat, that could have an effect as well. So keeping your thoughts clear, watching what you're watching, whether it's movies or whatever, even the news, pretty crazy stuff on the news, that's all going into you. So just keep in mind like what's going into your frequency.
I have noticed lately that if I'm at a restaurant or I get takeout, I can look at the food and I can feel whether or not the chef was cooking with love.
Yes.
And I cannot eat some things. I've gotten takeout and I'm at home and I open the box and I say to myself, oh, I don't think I should eat this. This doesn't feel right. So
yeah,
paying attention to those kinds of things too.
Yes, that's a great observation. That's why even like for people that pray before they eat, they're trying to infuse a positive vibration into the food that they're about to eat and be thankful for. So yeah, if you're someone that cooks for your household, like just imagine infusing it with love, because sometimes the restaurants, they're not, they're just rushing to do whatever they need to do to get the food in the box and then whatever. And I feel that'd be a great business too. Like for people that are like in the restaurant business, if they focused on infusing everything they made with love, they'd be surprised. People would keep coming back all the time. Like, I don't know why, but I love your food so much. Because the love they put into it. So that's a great observation.
You can feel that.
Yeah.
Wow. So other than what you're doing now, and so I want to go over your YouTube. You have a Mandela Effect YouTube series as well, and that's called Mandela.
So the first one I created was just called like the Quantum Businessman series, and I made like 6 or 7 videos about all these different Mandela effects. And then I went to like another level of it. I started the Symphony of Realities series. And if you watch that, you'll see like my evolution of going from conspiracies, conspiracy theories and stuff like that, which is of a certain, I'll say a bit lower vibration, and then changing that more and more and more, finally going up to light language. So if you ever watch that, you could actually see my growth, including the growth of my hair. So because like that's another thing too. Like if you want to change a timeline, sometimes the way you look, like your hairstyle, could be a sign if you're changing a timeline. Rearranging the furniture in your bedroom or someplace else in your house would indicate a timeline change, like literally be a timeline change. So like everyone else, I'm like continuing to I seem to be taking baby steps, but at least I'm moving forward. But like everyone else, just keep trying to advance and figuring out what the best way forward is. But my Symphony of Realities is my latest series about Mandela effects. And I got some pretty interesting things in some of my more recent versions. I get into talk about time travel, and just talk about some things that are big Mandela effects for me. And a lot of people, after they watch it, they're like, wow, I never knew about that either. So,
okay. Yeah. Good. Well, I want people to access your videos because they're amazing. They're very rich, and I can see your evolution within that. Yeah, that's awesome. Love it. Love
Thank you.
it.
Thank you.
So where's your next trip? Or are you allowed to tell?
I don't know. I've actually just been thinking about that. I think I have a clue to where it might be. But I'm not 100% sure yet. But it was good that my one last year was in the United States, and I was actually able to drive there. It was like a 20-hour drive. But my next trip, I think, is going to be out of the country. So we'll see if that materializes. I know I'll be going somewhere, but it's still a little bit up in the air where exactly I'll be going.
I want to backtrack just a minute to that Kansas archway, and hopefully you'll provide us some images we can use for the video. But just for quick, tell us what that was about.
Yeah, so that was about, it was an area called Monument Rocks. And actually before the trip, everywhere it was called Monument of the Rocks. When I got back from Kansas and was putting the video together, it all changed to now it's just called Monument Rocks. But it's basically a natural formation, and part of it is shaped like a giant arch, like a giant portal. And I don't know why I was drawn to, well, I know now I was drawn to it, but I was like, okay, I gotta go to Kansas. Now where do I have to go? And then that popped up into my reality. And I'm like, yep, that was one of the places I had to go to. And there's the whole concept of a control room. I know this is going to sound kind of way out there, but under Monument Rocks, there's a type of technology where the Earth hologram, and they're all over the planet, where things below the surface can affect and read what's going on the surface. And that was like an old control room that kind of was like shut down. It wasn't being utilized. And it was really special because it had access to all these other realms of Earth. So a lot of people have heard about Hollow Earth, and also then Inner Earth, which is different, which has all these different realities. So the land of Oz could be considered one of Earth's realms. Agartha could be another realm. Telos could be another realm that are existing, within the Earth plane. So that was a special portal that could allow travel. You could bilocate. Your higher self could bilocate and go into these other realms. And so part of that was doing some things, again, with my friend. I went there with my friend, Sean Bond, and beginning some steps to reactivate that. So, and it was in Kansas, the land of Oz. So there was some Wizard of Oz places that we went to, and that was fun too. And then there's a whole big Mormon experience I had, so I told you I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness. Well, the Mormons were like, they're not like Jehovah's Witnesses, but they knock on doors like Jehovah's Witnesses do. And so I was very aware of them. I wound up meeting someone there that was a leader in one of his ancestors in the 1800s split off from the Mormon church, and they had their own settlement, so to speak, in that part of Kansas. And then that led to all these Mandela effects. I talk about it in one of my Symphony of Realities videos. So yeah, one thing led to another. So Mormons, control rooms, giant archways out in the middle of nowhere of Kansas, the land of Oz. So yeah, so just an example of my life. So
it's in your video. People can watch
yes.
in your video. Wonderful.
Yes.
So I want to just, before we wrap up here, go back through a couple of pointers about people and timelines. And you were talking about rearranging the furniture, a change in clothing, any other things that would indicate people to let them know that they are shifting into another timeline.
Yeah. So anything where someone could be like observing your life and it wasn't the same as it was before. So if there's observe your life now, and let's say they go back a few months, there'd be some noticeable changes. Like that person looks a little bit different. Maybe they moved to a different house. Maybe they have different pictures on the wall than they had before, or the pictures have been moved around on the wall. Anything like that. Even take a different route to work. Like, if there's make a left instead of a right, those type of things are all different things you can do to show like there's timeline changes and that you're not stuck in a certain type of rut where you're just groundhog daying all the time, the same thing over and over and over, but you're starting to make these changes. And then that has a bigger reflection upon your reality. You're actually doing more than getting out of a rut. You're actually changing your reality.
Okay. Yes. Excellent. Wow. Thank you for that. And thank you for this interview. You're just delightful. I love where you're coming from, how open you are, your humble heart, and your willingness to share. And we appreciate you sharing your unique type of wisdom with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Melinda.
So much for being with us, Chris. So you can find Chris Anatra and give us your website.
Yes, quantumbusinessman.com. And you can find my videos on YouTube. Just type in Quantum Businessman, and you should be able to find my channel.
And are you taking on any students or teaching anything that we need to know about, or have a book, or just follow the videos?
Yeah, for now, follow the videos. I have some things in mind, possibly in the future, possibly a book, possibly some special online courses and light language activations, because I don't want to put too much out there in the public, because this light language, especially the one I speak, which is like very ancient and very angelic, if you're not ready for it and you hear it, it could like have a detrimental effect on you. So I want to make sure that I'll put the basic stuff on there, like opening your heart, finding your soul family. But there might be more advanced ones that I kind of put into like maybe group meditations and that type of thing that I might do in the future.
Would it be, if you are so inclined, is there a light language way to bless the audience in this watching this video?
Yes.
Just give us a blessing.
Yeah, so I'll speak some light language, clear my throat, with the intent to.
Of course, this is only if you're so inclined. We understand this is sacred to you, and only share what you feel comfortable with. Yeah,
actually, it would be great to do that, because who doesn't want more blessings?
Sign us up.
I know, and the way things work in the universe, when you help others, that reverberation comes back to you. You send out a healing. Healings come back to you. So it's always positive. When you do things in the right way. So to give everybody an idea, I speak something called Hibaru, which is a very older light language that hasn't been spoken on the planet for a while. I believe that more people are going to start speaking it. And when you listen to it, it sounds like a combination of Hebrew and French is the way it gets described to me. So it's one of the lost languages of the planet. So I'll speak something, and the intention is to send out blessings and healing. And the first part of what I do is I call it the handshake, where I identify who I am. And so your higher selves can pick up and decide if they want to bring in the light language. And then I'll just like speak I won't speak long, maybe like a minute at the most. And when you're listening to it, try to like imagine your consciousness going from your brain into your heart. So you're trying to receive everything in your heart. If you try to left brain it too much, it won't have the same, it will have an effect, but not the same effect. And then you may even want to listen to it again in the future. So, okay, so here we go. So I'm going to drop my consciousness into my heart. I connect to my divine self. This is not, I don't channel. This is directly me to my divine self. Monil das Shushiyamato Kianometia sa Sawohio. Moleambutia sa Shushiniya. Kopala Patish sa Sawa. Kuinitawa. Kuale Pesua. Kuishu sa. Kutudami. Wasoshisa mitiki sa. Kushasio. Wakushu. Samitwa Nutra Kushusipia. Wunipi Sapaka. Moyanite. Yasishu. Nemitwikupusha Diana. Matias tuatua shusia quanota shisa wakuyonepa pariose sukisha. Matumiane betua kushene sipitato mole pitu bakwa sa sushisa molita kayasesio malia leatuasia shosubiantu me kanyata kumatwishe sepet shasam takwalepe shasu bakyasi. And I could feel while I was speaking it, like broadcasting love, broadcasting healing, broadcasting blessings. And so everyone could feel how, everyone will respond to it a little bit differently.
And my response is Bakwa.
Bakwa. No,
Bakwa. I was starting to cry. I could really feel that. I was saying, yes, thank you. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. It was a part of me completely understood what you were saying.
Exactly. That's what you'll pick up on. Like, you may not know the words, but the feelings come through. And then, when it comes to light language, is also the gesturing, like you're moving. Some people call them fire codes, but there's different things that are around you when you start speaking, because everything it's the frequency that it comes out.
But this Bakwa just came to my mind to tell you. So that must be a thank you.
Yeah. And if anyone so after you hear this, some people might be some people listening already speak light language, I'm sure. And then they might find that their light language becomes maybe a little more graphic, or more pronounced, but the other thing is that people that don't speak it at all of a sudden you might feel inclined to say something, probably in private.
That's what happened to me.
Okay. Yeah, just put your ego to the side, and if anything is in there, let it flow, because if we've got all these angelic humans speaking light language on the planet, that's big. That's a timeline change right there. So
wow, I could really feel that, Chris. That was just that was an amazing blessing. That was a heartfelt, beautiful audience. I hope you got that and take it in, because that was just an extraordinary heart-opening blessing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Beautiful. And Chris, I hope we get a chance to have you back.
Yes, exactly. We can talk more Mandela effects and light language. Exactly. Anything.
Well, thank you again, Wisdom Keepers of Earth. Signing out now with Chris Anatra. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.